In the cool shadows of dawn, the ancient city of Rome stirs. The soft murmur of the Tiber River flows under the stone bridges, its waters whispering secrets of a time long past, yet never forgotten. A chill lingers in the air, accentuating the faint echoes of footsteps that once patrolled these cobbled streets, men clad in robes of deep color, their faces rough-hewn and resolute. A stillness hangs over the forum, where marble columns once rose under the weight of profound ideals. Here power and politics brewed together, as intoxicating and volatile as a cup of wine after a long day's labor. The Roman Republic was born of noble aspirations, a system built on the promise of liberty, of governance by the people for the people. Yet therein lay an irony woven tightly into its very fabric. The ideals that gave rise to such glory would ultimately sow the seeds of its demise. This was a realm where ambition coursed through the veins of its citizens like wildfire, fueled by both their dreams and fears, twisting the notion of freedom into a tangled web of power. In this crucible of change, the voice of the Senate soared high, filled with prophecies that danced dangerously close to whispers of betrayal and dread. What if the very ideals that built the greatest civilization led to its undoing? Beneath the glimmering surface of oratory brilliance, there lay the raw, pulsating heart of a political theater rife with tension, hope, and the shadows of looming disaster. More than a millennium before democracy flourished anew, the Roman Republic grappled with its soul. It was a system without a king, where senators debated the future under the watchful eyes of countless statues that celebrated victories of the past. Yet the very halls that sang of democracy could easily become a stage for power plays, where noble ideals often lost their way in the face of raw ambition. Omens were everywhere, whispering of the fractures that loomed just around the corner, the hawk's shrill cry, or the sudden silence of an approaching storm, as if the very gods themselves conspired to reveal the fate of a city. Rome's sprawling hills cradled the ambitions of patricians and plebeians alike. From the dusty streets bustling with merchants to the lavish villas perched on summits, every corner of society pulsed with aspiration and treachery. The ambitions of one could ignite hope in many, or lash back against the soul of the Republic itself. As the sun begins to rise over this multifaceted world, a sense of unease settles over the horizon, the beauty of an awakening day entwined with the tragic fate that awaited its citizens. An inevitable shift lay ahead, the story of Julius Caesar, the man who dared to dream of empire in a time when a republic defined the soul of Rome. His very name would become synonymous with the ruin of those grand ideals, like a firebrand flaring and falling into the gathering shadows. Yet before the fall there was a rise, the exhilarating moments when ambition flared, intertwined with both the glory of conquest and the whisper of an approaching storm. One could almost see the glimmers of charisma and electrifying rhetoric as he navigated the treacherous seas of Roman politics, where fear and hope pulled at the heartstrings of every citizen. And then in stillness, whispers echoed of a plot taking shape, a dagger in the night, a transformation tainted by the shadows of betrayal, yet underlined by the paradox of human aspiration. How often do we witness a heart beat for liberty while trembling before power? Like the streets of Rome, the ideals that once inspired freedom now suffocated under the weight of their own creation. With each heartbeat of ambition, another thread of fabric frayed, each ambition tying a knot with betrayal as the clock ticks closer to a destiny sealed with blood. But who were the faces behind the power? What compassionate hearts lay beneath the armor that sought to protect them, yet offered no security? As shadows gathered, draping over patricians and plebeians alike, the toll of ambition twisted friendships like knots in a vine. The theatrics of politics became suffocating, driving leaders to choose between their own paths and the discontent of those who followed. The very essence of the Republic faced turmoil, as it had become a stage where political chess was played amidst the torpid sense of sweat and blood, an ironic juxtaposition that echoed the fragility of human existence. Yet let us linger for a moment to sense the palpable tension suffusing the air. Imagine the clamoring voices of senators as powers collided, a cacophony punctuated by the dull thud of restless fists on worn wooden tables. What dreams were cast aside in the pursuit of an ideal that was a radiant mirage, forever retreating yet ever desired? In these halls, decisions were made that weathered the trajectory of millions, each discussion concealing a profound weight, each vote a trembling heart's plea for survival. Amidst the chaos of aspirations fluttering like leaves in the wind, prophetic warnings surfaced. The words of soothsayers echoed warningly, "Beware the Ides of March," they prophesied. But as human nature persists, the haunting allure of power drowned out caution, casting aside foresight like dust on the stones beneath the arches of glory. As the seasons shifted, stirring emotions within the citizens, Rome stood at a precipice, hovering between the ideals that shaped her destiny and the ambition that would lead towards catastrophe. There was a pregnant pause in the air, an anxiety that architected a grand spectacle waiting to unfold, a tragic play with no recourse. The stage was set, the actors took their positions behind the curtain, And unbeknownst to them, the world's gaze would soon turn toward them. It would scrutinize their unwinding drama, poised between enlightenment and ruin. In that pregnant silence, as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across the forum, a palpable sense of tragedy loomed. The Republic's unwavering ambition began to stir, a shadow of its own making that would entrap its fate. What seems like an ambition to build can also become a yearning to destroy, and as the final breath of the Republic shapes history's pages, a haunting question reverberates, a poignant reminder that in this great expanse of human achievement, what happens when dreams turn to dust? For the dreams of men can transform into nightmarish realities, a universal tale woven through time, and in Rome's vibrant heart, it was all about to unfurl. As the echoes of ambition reverberated through the cobbled streets and the looming structures of marble, one could sense how the very geography of Rome conspired with its citizens' aspirations, shaping not only their daily lives but the political ideologies that pulsed through their society. The 7 hills of Rome did not merely serve as physical landmarks, they manifested the aspirations and the divisions within a people. Symbols of both unity and separation stood tall, each crest supporting a community wrestling with contrasting dreams, patricians basking in the light of privilege and plebeians struggling for their rightful place in this evolving narrative. The growth of the Republic brought the intricate tapestry of social classes into sharp focus. At one end, the patricians, proudly descended from patrician roots, navigated the corridors of power with unencumbered ease, their wealth allowing for quiet manipulation of the political machine. Their grandiose villas, adorned with exquisite mosaics and lush gardens rivaling those of the gods, held social events filled with the clinking of silver goblets that echoed the laughter of the elite. Yet within the shadow of their opulence lay the growing restlessness of the lower classes. The plebeians, often peasants or craftsmen, found themselves wading through an actual and bleak struggle for recognition and rights, yearning for their place amid the spoils of glory their forebears had dreamed of. Here were the workers of Rome, their hands calloused from labor, voices blending into a collective cry that sought equality, yet often found themselves drowned out by the laughter and power of their betters. Among this sprawling social structure, the burgeoning economy played a pivotal role in shaping both cooperation and angst. Trade routes stretched outward, connecting Rome to far-flung regions, ensuring an influx of wealth that buoyed the Republic's coffers like wind filling the sails of a ship bound for new horizons. Merchants provided livelihoods to many, their carts heavy with spices from the east and grains from the heartland, fortifying both the city's essence and its power. Yet the success of trade did not come without its burdens. As the wealthy basked in their fortunes, they often seemed indifferent to the tightening grip of poverty faced by many, which began to sow the seeds of envy. Inevitably, the wealth gap widened, giving rise to a simmering discontent beneath the surface, a dangerous undercurrent threatening to rupture the fragile peace of a society woven from ambition and exhaustion. The Republic thrived on the foundation of its political constructs, primarily the Senate, a body imbued with both reverence and resentment. Here, within the sacred precincts of their marble chamber, senators convened, their deliberations echoing against the walls that had borne witness to centuries of triumph and tribulation. Yet the very structure that defined governance also became a battleground, a crucible where the ideals of liberty clashed bitterly with the realities of ambition. Power became an intoxicating elixir, drawing men of noble birth and military valor alike into the churning eddy of political gamesmanship. The struggle for influence became personal, relationships tarnished in the face of political opportunities like fresh paint on an ancient canvas, faded by time yet always fighting to reclaim its glory. But while the prestigious men of Rome grappled for power amid the polished marble and ornate statues, another force swirled beneath the surface, belief systems that invoked both loyalty and fear. The gods reigned supreme in the hearts of many, tethered to the rituals that permeated daily existence. Priests and priestesses performed ceremonies, offering prayers and sacrifices, beseeching favor for military campaigns and fruitful harvests. Religion smoothed the cracks of discord, binding the community together like sinew and bone. Even as imperial ambitions begot a ruthless desire for more than mere earthly victories, it sought control over hearts. Hallowed temples became both bastions of faith and arenas for political maneuvering, where piety often blurred into the realm of manipulation, a stage for grand gestures that masked ambition's sharper edges beneath the sanctity of the divine. Throughout this period of strife and aspiration, the specter of upheaval lingered as political factions arose, shaping allegiances and sowing treachery. The partisan disputes became axiomatic in this evolving drama, where popular leaders promised change and reform that lit a fire in the hearts of the embattled masses, flooding the forum with voices demanding equality, while the patrician families bristled against what they viewed as a dangerous assault on their legacy. Figures emerged, emboldened by the cries for change among the masses, spurred on by the fervor of the moment, yet often driven by their ambitions, a peculiar dance of loyalty and betrayal that shaped Roman history. It is in this context that one recognizes the echoes of democracy, the dialectical tug-of-war between the collective well-being of the Republic and the relentless yearning for supremacy by its leaders. In the shadow of this tumult, the very fabric of daily life continued to weave its rich texture. Among the vibrant colors of the marketplace, the tantalizing aromas of freshly baked bread mingled with the sounds of haggling voices. Children, their laughter lilting like notes of a forgotten song, kicked a leather ball while the weary, weathered heads of families offered their musings on the unfolding political drama, their ambitions tended like olive branches in a world fraught with tension. Yet amid this regularity, an unsettling knowledge flickered within the hearts of the people. Their republic was on borrowed time, the rumbles of turmoil a barely whispered prediction of what was to come. And while the city thrived, an undercurrent of fear seeped into the consciousness of its inhabitants. Visionary leaders gave rise to both hope and dread. Voices of revolution echoed among dissenters as they grappled with their desire for a more equitable society. Yet within every cry for justice lay the sting of disillusionment, a growing certainty that the lust for power would eclipse even the most noble intentions. The very democracy that had placed power in the hands of many began slipping into the hands of the few, a gradual yet irreversible shift that birthed an all-too-familiar paradox, freedom that ensnared, liberty that chained. As Rome began to host civil discord, every citizen's heart carried the weight of survival. Hopes crystallized into fear while friendships frayed beneath the unrelenting microscope of their shared history. Brothers turned against brothers, ambition often clouding the bonds formed over decades. The whisper of betrayal began to gather strength, rippling through the fabric of society, fueled by suspicions and disagreements as they rushed towards a destiny tinged with a foreboding clarity. What would the price of ambition be? With an instability brewing within its borders, a storm was brewing on the horizon. This moment, ripe with unresolved tensions and growing discontent, pointed toward an unyielding transformation awaiting the still-fledgling republic. It accompanied the sadness of awakening dreams, now worn by ambitions gone awry, as shadows lengthened over the land. Beneath the laughter of merchants and the rigid solemnity of the Senate endured an invisible framework of tension, each thread slowly inching the republic toward an abyss, a muted crescendo heralding the relentless march towards change. The story weaved throughout the republic, one that spoke of resilience in the face of overwhelming odds, of love and hatred carried along like feathers caught in a storm. This hidden complexity underscored every human experience, reminding us that deep within the surging waves of society lay the eternal question at the heart of ambition. How, in the pursuit of greatness, can individuals and the fabric of society itself slip perilously toward their own undoing? With every heartbeat echoing in the throbbing city, the answer teetered on the brink, swirling in the tides, whispering a tale all too familiar yet ever poignant, a tale that remained to unfold only when the moment was right, with tides of change crashing upon the shores of time. As the sun began its slow descent behind the seven hills, casting a warm glow over the bustling streets of Rome, the rhythms of daily life unfurled like a grand tapestry. The cobblestones, slick with the remnants of rain, bore witness to the countless feet that passed over them, each step charged with purpose and desire, hopes interwoven with the ambitions echoing through the corner taverns. Amid the rustic aroma of baked bread wafting from open windows, hints of roasted meat sizzling over charcoal mingled with the fragrant offerings of local vendors, inviting eager patrons to partake in the warm communities unfolding under the passionate hue of the Roman sky. Within the market, where colors burst forth in the form of saffron, red wine, and gleaming olives, ordinary Romans bustled with vibrant chaos. Housewives bartered with determined merchants, their hands calloused yet nimble, fingers lightly brushing over fresh produce, assessing not just the food but the very essence of their lives. The balance between provision and want hung delicately, much like the produce on their stalls, ripe yet precariously close to spoiling. For these families, the fleeting moments shared over meals held significance more profound than mere sustenance. They were the threads binding the fabric of their lives together, the flavored reflections of pride and struggle entwined in every recipe passed down through generations. In the heart of every household, familial relationships forged an intricate network of intimacy, woven against the backdrop of political unrest. Tables laden with garlic and herbs encircled the laughter of children, with stories of valor and historical triumph echoing through walls that had absorbed whispered truths and harsh realities alike. Wives and mothers imbibed strength from the kitchen hearth, their hearts nurturing both food and spirit, while fathers basked in the fleeting joys of whispered ambitions, dreams woven with purpose, amidst the uncertainty looming like a storm. Despite the ever-swirling maelstrom of civil intrigue, the home remained a sanctum, a refuge of warmth found in laughter, salty tears, and hopeful promises exchanged over flickering flames. Yet amidst the mundane beauty of family life, the shadow of societal roles cast an ever-lengthening silhouette. Each individual within this grand mosaic played a part, daughters groomed for the sacrificial ties of marriage, sons training under the stern gaze of fatherly expectation, maneuvering the delicate balance of duty and aspiration. The patrician families' nests of privilege perched atop society's hierarchy reveled in their status, their children skating along the thin veneer of influence, while the plebeian children gazed from the margins, yearning for recognition, their dreams encumbered by their social stratum. Not far from the shadows, street urchins darted through alleys, their laughter faded by hunger, resourceful yet starved, embodying a juxtaposition of innocence and the harsh scars left by a system that often deemed them invisible. As the evening deepened, the flicker of candles began to light the corners of homes and public squares alike, drawing out the intimacy of gathering and shared tradition. In temples dedicated to venerable gods, prayerful supplications transformed into elaborate rituals, unifying men and women in fervent devotion. Rituals shaped their understanding of the world, a dance of belief that whirled between the spiritual and the societal, a steady cadence against the encroaching chaos of governance. Priests adorned in flowing robes pronounced the weight of an unfolding narrative steeped in sacred authority, their spiritual dominion often an extension of the very power that gripped the city, placing Rome's destiny in the hands of deities intertwined with political ambitions. Beneath the marble arches adorned with sculptures of the divine, offerings were made, the interplay of faith and fear entwined like ivy around a column, yet within those acts of devotion lay the subtle undertones of manipulation, the dance between reverence and personal gain ever present. As trade flourished and Rome swelled in size and ambition, wealth trickled through the canals of society, streaming toward both the affluent and the destitute alike, carving out disparate experiences of prosperity. The structures that reached toward the heavens, colonnades and amphitheaters, standing as testaments to human creativity, also mirrored the divisions festering within the populace. Opulent villas draped in artworks reflected the choices of the elite, walls lined with tapestries that spoke of conquests and glory, while dilapidated tenements held the dim glow of flickering lamps, illuminating weary souls striving merely to exist. The dichotomy of light and shadow seeped from the buildings, encasing the very essence of their interactions, a microcosm throbbing with the vibrant pulse of an unquenchable thirst for both recognition and upheaval. Amid this social hierarchy, architects and builders poured their unyielding dedication into creating spaces designed not just for function, but for grandeur, structures that bore witness to their aspirations and the prevailing ethos. The Forum emerged as the center of life, adorned with elaborate temples, bustling with merchants and politicians alike, where every platform rang with the clang of rhetoric and the power of persuasion. It was a kaleidoscope of life and ambition, the voices of the plebeians rising collectively, their chorus of demands melding with the patrician arguments that filled the air, the very soundscape constructing a dynamic tension that echoed through the ages. Within this space, ordinary lives brushed against great ambitions and high stakes, each echoed sentiment a prayer longing to be heard. Yet as the years crawled forth, social dynamics began to shift like sand underfoot, echoing the relentless tide of change. The pressures building beneath the surface sparked movements. Discontented whispers turned into tumultuous cries for land reform, dress codes defied, and alliances redefined along the fault lines of class distinction. Populist leaders harnessed this unrest, wielding it as a chalice of promise and division, yet even they remained engulfed in the maelstrom they stirred. Brought forth by hope or desperation, these calls for change often found themselves ensnared in a web of self-interest. Ambition and the quest for power lit the flames of dichotomy. Discord crept forth uninvited, a specter pushing against the delicate balance that had held society together for so long. Life in this storied city constrained the populace into ever-tightening circles, where unbroken allegiances became brittle as the expectations of loyalty pressed upon them like a titanic weight. Rifts began to emerge. Friends turned foes and families became divided, each soul faced with the choices growing ever grimmer, the delicate interplay of survival revealing trump card strategies that had once been hidden. In families torn between loyalty to the old system that cradled their affluence and the radical ideologies promising new beginnings, fragility ran rampant like a contagion, a threshold where faith transitioned into conflict, loyalty morphed into betrayal, and the once shared vision of the Republic could no longer hold against the pressing storm. Amid the political fabrics unraveling, the heart of ordinary life continued to pulse, a mirror reflecting the relentless dance of human emotion. Each corner, each home, beheld the warmth of shared meals punctuated by dreams woven with fragility. Bread was broken and laughter echoed against the palace walls, yet always tinged with a sense of urgency. The children, brushes of innocence tethered to the weight of their legacies, played in dirt-streaked streets while their parents stood taller against the encroaching tide, eyes scanning the horizon, keenly feeling the unease swelling like the tide. Hope hung in the air, braided with anxiety, the essence of survival imprinted on their very fabric. Glimmers of a future flickered like the candles illuminating the night, yet the weight of destined change pressed upon the city like a gathering storm. The Republic, as it rose and fell through a mosaic of lives tinged with desire and despair, painted an ever-unfolding story, not merely of political machinations and stately ambitions, but of the lasting bonds that intertwined ordinary lives and the ceaseless march of human aspiration caught in the winds of change. The many destinies carved out of hope and disillusionment lingered on the edge of evolution, awaiting the telling of a new chapter under the watchful gaze of its monument-laden sky, a breath suspended in time, whispering the inevitable heartache of what was yet to come. As the vibrant city of Rome pulsated with life, the very ideals that had stitched together the Republic began to fray under the pressures of ambition and unrest. The delicate architectural marvels that adorned the city, constructed from gleaming marble and solid stone, had quickly become symbols of not only pride but discontent. The weight of a burgeoning population bore down heavily on the infrastructure, continuously amplifying the strains of social inequality. Amidst the exquisite temples dedicated to the gods of Olympus, citizens stood together in solidarity, but cracks were beginning to form within this facade of unity, an inevitable splintering caused by conflicting desires and aspirations. The social instability buried deep within the hearts of the citizens echoed through the political halls of the Senate, where discussions grew heated and divisions widened. An increasingly vocal populace, formerly silent in their resentments against the patrician class, clamored fervently for representation, for their voices to be heard amidst the grand proclamations of aristocratic interests. The once harmonious partnership of the patricians and plebeians began to fray, revealing underlying tensions that no amount of pleasantries could mask. The Roman populace felt the pressure of invisible chains binding them to a system that had begun to breathe suffocation as opposed to liberty. Amid leadership's promises of reform, ancient grievances simmered restlessly, manifesting in uprisings that would reverberate through the annals of history. It was within this cauldron of discontent, where familial loyalties became malleable, that ambitious figures began to emerge. Leaders like Tiberius Gracchus made waves with bold attempts at land reform, igniting the sparks of populism among the masses. These populist movements appealed at a visceral level, resonating with the thrumming heart of a city pulsating for justice, demanding to reshape floors of power long hoarded by a privileged few. As the masses rallied behind the Gracchi brothers, ideological bedfellows sought to alter Rome's fortunes. What began as a spark illuminated the shadows of greed and ambition that loomed over the Republic, showing that revolutionary change was both tantalizing and perilous. However, each quest for reform carried the seeds of its own undoing. The very ambition that drove the Gracchi to seek justice also incurred the ire of powerful enemies. Greed masked beneath the cloak of civic duty took its toll when Tiberius Gracchus himself was assassinated, a casualty of political machinations swirling like a tempest above the forum. The bloodshed cast off as mere politics would become a presaging harbinger, the forewarning that the Republic's ideals were not immune to destruction. A struggle for power erupted, fraying the fabric of loyalty and self-interest, tearing apart the unity once painstakingly cultivated. From the ashes of civil turbulence rose Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Sulla, who would capitalize on the commotion and redefine what ambition meant within a shifting landscape. Marius championed the cause of the common soldier, opening the enlistment ranks to the plebeians, which, while fostering a newfound sense of inclusion and strength among the disenfranchised, introduced an unsettling loyalty shift toward individual generals rather than the Republic itself. With citizens now enlisted under banners not just of Rome, but personal ambitions, the armed forces transformed from a collective force for the Republic into a tool for personal gain, a transition that pulled the threads of loyalty tight against the background of political unrest. As Marius' star rose amid victories on foreign soil, Sulla seized upon this transformation with his own ambitions ignited. The civil war that erupted in this power struggle, born out of conflicting ideologies, tested the Republic's very limits. With each general seeking not merely victory but supremacy, a new era dawned, one that whispered of future despots hidden within the guise of soldiers. As blood was shed and allegiances were tested, the Republic grew increasingly aware that their beloved ideals were entangled in the ghostly hands of power, spiraling away from the civic virtues of unity and cooperation, veering towards a fevered pursuit of ambition that heralded uncertain consequences. In the wake of civil discord, with the bodies of soldiers littering the landscape that had once sung of glory, the emergence of figures like Julius Caesar became inevitable. A brilliant tactician and a master manipulator, Caesar embodied the promise of greatness, yet teetered on the precipice of potential catastrophe. His rise from obscurity to lead a conquering force in Gaul showcased the cultural expectations of the time, blurring the lines between conquest for the Republic and his unyielding ambition for personal glory. Rome, ever seeking prosperity through conquest, courted the spectre of internal turmoil, unwittingly nurturing the very forces that would one day threaten their ideals of governance. With each victory and monumental triumph, Caesar's popularity surged, yet behind the golden facade of delectable conquests lay a paranoid underbelly fueled by the Senate's fears. Conversations that once flourished among allies turned into whispers of treachery. Paranoia wrapped itself around their interactions like ivy taking root in crumbling stone. The Senate, gripped by fears of losing authority, plotted power plays, banishment, treason charges, and eventually death. It was ambition's cyclical nature. To aspire so fervently often meant courting danger, where loyalty became a casual casualty on the battlefield of ideas and aspirations. As the heralded Ides of March approached, a culmination of ideological conflicts brewed silently in the minds of both Caesar and his adversaries. Banners of loyalty were replaced by those of betrayal. The line between safeguarding the Republic and preserving personal ambition blurred irrevocably, leading to the cataclysmic act that would forever alter Rome's course. The tumultuous aftermath of Caesar's assassination rippled across the city. Betrayed by old alliances, the very lifeblood of the Republic throbbed with uncertainty. Here in the ruins of friendship, the spectre of civil conflict reared its head anew, a vortex drawing in those who would dare govern in the name of ambition and power. Yet this upheaval gave rise to new figures, a testament to the resilience of human adaptability. The emergence of Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, alongside Mark Antony and Lepidus set the stage for a new ideological fulcrum, a triumvirate infused with heavy contradictions. As they navigated the shards of a broken republic, reconciled and yet divided in motives, ambitious dreams began to take shape, hinting at an empire waiting just beneath the surface. The rhythm of Rome, once harmonious, now echoed with the dissonance of civil war, a crescendo that sought to shatter past traditions and usher in a new, uncertain future. In the clamor of military ambition and rivalry, the populace found themselves swept along, their destinies reshaping along with the tides of power. The expectations of democratic ideals lingered like specters haunting civic life, even as the ground beneath seethed with tumult. Growing fears of shifting allegiances embedded in the populace reverberated along the eternal walls of the Forum, resembling the very cracks creeping up those pillars, now not merely symbols of unity but somber reminders of fragility. Amid the victories celebrated in military encampments, whispers of doubt loomed, questions of governance suffused the air, genuine despair mingled with confusion regarding the ideals they once venerated. Life beyond the politics became a question of endurance. Rumblings of migration surged, where citizens once firmly rooted sought solace beyond the familiar confines of Rome. The ambition to carve out a better existence away from the chaotic flux of politics tempted many. Families packed meager belongings, armed with only the hope that awaited them across distant hills, trying to reclaim their aspirations forged by a societal unrest, each decision laden with the profound emotional weight of loss and uncertainty. And as the world of the Republic continued to shift, so too did the aspirations of its citizens, caught in the powerful current of historical change, awaiting clarity in a story that spiraled toward an inevitable denouement. The welfare of ordinary lives hung delicately, each hope and ambition intertwined with political transformations that swayed like grass under a brewing storm. The pulse of the Republic quickened, ever aware of the awakening tide ushered forth by both dreams and turmoil, where the past served as chapters of struggle and survival, a history echoing under the watchful gaze of the heavens, a silent promise awaiting the emergence of a new reality. What awaited them within the folds of time was a journey that would inevitably lead to transformation, whether toward glory or ruin remained to be seen. As ambition flowed like a restless tide through the heart of Rome, a delicate tapestry of hope and despair began to unravel, a human story etched against the grand backdrop of an impending transformation. All the while, the winds of change carried whispers of reinvention, yet with each passing moment, the memories of the Republic's ideals faded like the last light of dusk, forewarned by the lingering shadows of history. In the backdrop, as Octavian and Mark Antony sought to secure their places amidst the debris of ambition, the loyalty of soldiers hung in a precarious balance. The allegiance once felt toward the Republic's principles morphed into personal bonds between men and their brilliant commanders. Military camps thrummed with a new energy, a pulse of ambition reverberating through every spoken vow, each soldier aware that their fates were intertwined not with the concepts of shared governance, but rather with individual glory. The very essence of Roman identity splintered, as personal attachments eclipsed the collective ethos that had once defined their political landscape. Amidst parades of triumph, Ordinary citizens scanned the horizon, seeking remnants of their own vanishing representation, left to wonder if their voices would ever echo again in the hallowed halls that now sang praises of insatiable ambition. The streets of Rome, filled with a sense of expectancy and apprehension, were a reflection of the vast emotional spectrum experienced by the populace. Nobles feasted in opulent banquets, but their merry laughter was tinged with the fear of rebellion that may rear its head at any moment. The divide grew deeper, polarizing society into stark contrasts, their memories laced with nostalgia for a shared past, the glory of the Republic with its promises of liberty, equity, and representation. Yet the glint in the eyes of plebeians spoke of a dream eroding, a hope seemingly misplaced among an ever-hardening class system. Each cauldron of discontent simmered quietly beneath the surface, augmenting the emotional weight carried in the hearts of citizens caught in the throes of betrayal and transformation. As battles emerged, the countryside witnessed the imprint of war. Fields once vibrant with crops now lay barren, scorched by the passions of war. The pulse of pastoral life, filled with the diligent efforts of farmers cultivating the land, began to yield to the reality of militarization. The sounds of animal and human toil faded, overtaken by the thunder of marching armies seeking power rather than progress. Each bloody conquest and strategic maneuver redefined the relationship between land and people, the very essence of society intertwined with the scars of ambition. For some, this new world represented opportunities, lands, and wealth to be gained. For others, it was an unsettling shift, a glass fleetingly emptied, leaving the taste of salt, reminders of what had been lost amidst the clamor for power. Yet in the ruins of a crumbling republic, a profound transformation began to take form, propelled not by the dreams of a singular leader, but through the collective will, a desire for survival. The very landscape of loyalty, underscored by the very institutions that once held sanctuary, began to shift towards an uncertain perspective. Plebeians, finding voices long muted, sought safety in alliances bound together by the thread of common experience amid the chaos encircling Rome. The emotional atmosphere teetered perilously. Many felt estranged from the dreams ingrained in their city, like shadows infused with fear and hope. Engaging in clandestine discussions around faintly lit fires, whispers of rebellion stirred within loyal hearts. Are the sacrifices made too heavy to bear in pursuit of preserving the Republic? Among the tumult, the rise of infamous figures emerged, all fighting for dominance in the midst of civil war, as the loyalties of the past faded into mere proverbial echoes. Mark Antony, entwined in a passionate alliance with Cleopatra, crafted a narrative of seductive power that appealed to both the masses and history's memory. Their relationship encapsulated the audacity of ambition alongside the fleeting nature of legacy. Cleopatra embodied not just an ally but an idea of power that defied tradition, as their union offered a contemporary vision of strength, transcending borders and seeping into the collective psyche of a nation in flux. The very allure of their reign captured the hopes of many, but also resonated with suspicions amid the uncertainty. The longing for new ideals mixed with the fear that unbridled ambition might only hasten the fall of what remained of the Republic. With the sands of time shifting ever onward, the court of public opinion swayed like leaves caught in a gust of wind. Octavian's path toward greatness remained illuminated by cunning awareness. He recognized the pulse of the people, who now longed for a strong savior to guide them amidst chaos. Galvanized by cries of loyalty, Octavian maneuvered through the challenging landscape of shifting alliances, playing adversaries against one another, weaving a fabric of intrigue that embodied both strategy and vulnerability. He cloaked himself in the warmth of public support, aware that the soul of Rome was as malleable as clay. Yet amid this fluidity, the emotional echoes of past promises continued to resonate, questioning whether a ruler could truly honor the aspirations held dear by its citizens. As the climactic Battle of Actium loomed, a naval confrontation that thrummed with tension and foreboding, each participant understood the stakes could not merely measure in territory gained or lost. Lives, identities, and the very foundations of governance wavered within the grasp of uncertainty. When the dust settled upon this turbulent encounter, it heralded more than a single triumph or defeat. It revealed the ultimate consequence of a divided soul. For even in victory, the scars inflicted by betrayal loomed ever larger, shifting the landscape, crafting an empire thriving not in ideals but in the echoes of power. Upon the horizon, as Octavian donned the mantle of Emperor Augustus, signaling a transition from republic to empire, the very meaning of trust fractured, morphing from the idyllic promises of shared governance into something more insidious. The corridors of power cried out for a figure to lead them with an iron fist cloaked in benevolence. Citizens observed the transformation with bated breath, the last lingering scent of the Republic passing through their nostrils, a bittersweet perfume, rich with potential and tainted by tragedy. The ideals of democracy sculpted with lofty aspirations faded, yielding to the inexorable presence of an emperor navigating amidst the fragile sands of historical consequence. Yet within the silent depths, the thread of resilience lingered, an enduring human spirit aching to adapt, whether in the mundane struggles of daily life or the ever-shifting dynamics of class and ambition. Families huddled closer, sheltering dreams beneath roofs once filled with the weight of hopes now reduced to whispers. Glimmers of classical beauty persisted as the arches of triumph became channels of memory, overlapping the legacies of what had been with the demands of what must now prevail. Compromises forged in the fires of conflict allowed the populace to find their footing, navigating the changing chaos of Rome while planting seeds of cultural legacy, ensuring that from the embers of the Republic's downfall, new definitions of existence would surely emerge. As the light of ancient Rome shimmered with both the promise and turmoil of the present, the philosophical implications of the journey were unmistakable. History, in its relentless march, held aloft the complexities of human desires and dreams, the unyielding pursuit of power contrasting desperately with the ideals of freedom and equality, forever leaving an indelible mark upon every heart that dared to dream. It spoke of a future bound not simply by the ashes left behind, but illuminated by a sense of poignant remembrance, a reminder of what it meant to yearn for justice and dignity, aspirations that still throb in the veins of civilizations yet to unfold. In this eternal struggle, where the loud footsteps of ambition continue to ripple through time, the narrative of the Roman Republic answers with a soft echo, a melody woven into the very fabric of humanity's collective consciousness, lingering just beyond the threshold of memory, ever relevant, ever haunting, shaping futures from the ruins of the past. And thus, the rise and fall of the Republic remains an unfinished story, forever alive in the hearts of those who dare to reflect upon the intertwining fates of power, governance, and the unbreakable human spirit. The lessons tethered to their legacy serve as both warning and inspiration, inviting generations to sift through the remnants of the past as they carve out the reality of their own futures, forever in motion, forever evolving. As we stand amid the ruins of what was once the beating heart of a civilization, the legacy of the Roman Republic speaks quietly through the whispers of ancient stones. Here, amidst shattered columns and crumbling facades, one can almost hear the faint echoes of voices long silenced, their hopes and dreams entwined with the very fabric of this land, a land that once knew the brilliance of republican ideals and the dark allure of power. There is a profound stillness, a moment suspended in time, as the passage of centuries weaves a somber tapestry defined by ambition, betrayal, and the inexorable truth of human nature. The silent testament of these ruins evokes reflections not solely on the events themselves, but rather on the very essence of what it means to govern, to lead, and to unite. Underneath the weight of history lies a vital question that haunts our understanding. How do memories linger and transform, reshaped by the intentions and actions of those who stand in the shadows of the past? For while the Republic, vibrant with the energy of competition and rhetoric, succumbed to the weight of its own contradictions and ambitions, its very ideals have transcended time. Each fragment that remains speaks to a persistent lineage of thought, a legacy of governance that continues to inform the aspirations of those navigating through the complexities of power even today. As generations pass, we witness how history veils itself, twisting through the lives of descendants who reconstruct their understanding of these ancient narratives. While the Roman Republic may have transformed into an empire, the desire for autonomy, civic responsibility, and collective voice has not ceased to resonate in the hearts of people across the globe. The dreams of a society aspiring toward liberty and justice, although reimagined in various forms, remain a potent force, a guiding light piercing through the shadows of authoritarianism and oppression. The very idea of a republic, born on the rubbled paths of these ancient squares and the echoes of the senates, speaks to the timeless struggles present in modern governance. Like the hanging mist in dawn's light, the values of debate, representation, and collective responsibility cling to the air, infused within the spirit of democracy itself. And yet, amid the ambitions that often fuel the ruthless dance for power, we must pause to reckon with the cost of such pursuits. In our quest for progress, what shadows do we cast, and which voices participate in the framing of our collective identity? We ponder how ideals once passionately embraced become contours in the heart of nations, sometimes remolded entirely, reflecting the tumultuous tide of history. The sanctity of memory, as fragile yet enduring as a gentle breeze, carries with it the essence of survival and resilience. Places like the Forum, now merely fragments of their erstwhile grandeur, bear witness to the conversations and debates that inspired whole generations to rise. These sacred grounds breathe an atmosphere of reverence, an invitation to reflect on how dialogues from long ago ripple through modern times, shaping the contours of societies anew. In these very locations where men and women engaged fervently in spirited discourse, ordinary citizens sought change, often risking everything for their beliefs, even as those ideals trembled precariously beneath the weight of covetous ambition. The emotional intensity of this legacy does not vanish with the passing of time, rather it reverberates through the generations, echoing the struggles, passions, and vulnerabilities shared by countless souls who now rest in the silence of the earth. To revisit these remnants is to grapple with the intertwined fates of ambition and humility, the personal dreams clashing against statecraft's might. It allows us to ponder how the echoes of institutional change once reverberated through political arenas, and how the questions posed by citizens of Rome find their reflection in the experiences of those who are called to shape the modern world anew. Yet in the midst of destruction, as personal ambitions pushed the Senate's ideals into the recesses of memory, a transformation unfurled. The creative resilience of human nature ensured that beneath the shadows cast by defeat, passions endured. Traditions and stories of the Republic now flow through cultural veins, a legacy that binds present and past as generations inherit both the glory and the lessons learned. Festivals celebrating history and art, even the reverent resilience of language, echo the Republic's essence. From the laughter of children playing among the ruins to the scholars dedicating their lives to research, the spirit of Rome whispers through them, resilient in its vitality, a testament that while empires may rise and fall, the tapestry woven from shared experience resounds through time. In this way, the silence surrounding these ruins is not one of despair, but rather a perch of profound reflection, a moment suspended where the past and present converge, allowing us to sift through the memories and the legacies bestowed upon us. The questions, deeply human and achingly timeless, compose the fabric of existence. What are we to recall of our own narratives, and how do we honor the ideals nurtured by our forebears? The fallen Republic tucked within the stories we tell ourselves continues to inspire a dance between hope and caution, encouraging inquiry into modern institutions, our definitions of democracy, and the fragile threads binding us to one another. As we listen closely to the soft rustle of the wind coursing through ruins, we begin to perceive the quiet persistence of human nature, a timeless legacy revealing our continued aspiration for a shared voice, engaged governance, and the pursuit of justice. Each step across the ancient stones carries the weight of lives once lived, promising that memories do not dissolve with the passage of time, but rather find enduring resonance in the hearts of those willing to remember. The Roman Republic, though it may have faded into the folds of historical memory, is forever alive within the collective consciousness, its stories fueling a shared human quest for understanding. In this quietude, as twilight dances over the remnants of a once great civilization, we are reminded that though empires rise and collapse, those who tread this earth continue onward, ever in pursuit of their dreams and queries, aching to grasp the fleeting threads of legacy weaving them into the broader story of humanity. In this embrace of remembrance we dare not forget. We remember not just to honor the past, but to seek out the courage it takes to envision what comes next. As the light dwindles and afternoon's warmth gives way to the coolness of night, we linger for a moment longer, contemplating the intricate echoes that resonate within the historical depths. In the stillness surrounding the remnants, beneath the expanse of the starry sky, we sense that the story of the Roman Republic is not merely an echo of loss. It is an enduring legacy, a conscious reminder that history, like memory, is a living presence, intricately intertwined with the eternal ebb and flow of civilization, a tale not only of ambition but also of resilience, continuously sculpting the pathways of time toward the yet undiscovered horizons of future generations.